Self-advocacy is learning to speak up on your behalf and ask for what you need. It's learning to take charge and be more independent. For students with learning difficulties and ADHD, being an effective self-advocate often does not come easy.
If you don't say to a teacher and say, I need help with this assignment, and you don't get going, you sometimes don't have someone to push you along. Or, if you fall back, then it's really, you don't have someone, and it's hard to get back up.
In high school, it's one of the most essential things kids can do is self-advocate for themselves. They're in classes of 30 and 40 students, their classes move quickly, and their teachers don't often have a lot of time to make sure that everyone is getting what they need. So if students sit there and they let things go by and they don't really advocate for themselves, either in asking for accommodations or saying, I really don't understand this, I need some help, if they're not able to do that, things can quickly go downhill and we end up with a real big problem.
There are several reasons why children with learning difficulties don't self-advocate. One reason is that they often don't understand their own strengths and needs, so they don't perhaps understand their learning disability or their challenges, and so it's hard for them to communicate with other people what those challenges are. Another reason might be that they haven't specifically been coached to know how to self-advocate, and they haven't learned those strategies that they would need to do that. There's a lot of kids with learning difficulties, their self-confidence isn't great, so they don't want to feel stupid or they don't want to stand out, so they kind of just stay quiet.
Students who have poor skills in self-advocacy, they tend to really externalize their problem, and usually it's because they don't have a lot of confidence, they don't want to be seen as different from anyone else in their class, or they just really don't have the skills in how to ask for help. So they might blame themselves and say, I'm not good at this subject, my teacher doesn't really like me, I'm never going to be able to do this, instead of really being able to figure out what is the problem and how can we work to make sure that they understand and that they can move forward.
There are three important elements when you're trying to teach a student how to self-advocate. One is to help them understand what their strengths and their needs are. That might include having them have a greater understanding of what their specific learning disability is or their attention disorder. The second is helping them understand what strategies will help them to be successful. And then the third is helping them to communicate what their needs are to other people.
There's a number of things that teachers can do to help students understand their learning needs, but I think really it comes down to us modeling and scaffolding how students can do that. So for us as teachers, it's important to help them understand really what is the problem, getting them to verbalize that, and then thinking about, now what can we do, what can we put in place to help you in order to sort of work around the problem. One specific strategy teachers can use that's very simple is just to have a checklist for students, and they can go through and identify maybe what their learning style is. I'm a visual learner, I like to have diagrams of things. If I can have a model that I can use to learn with, that would really be helpful to me. On the flip side, they could also think about what are some of their challenges. I have difficulty with my working memory and I often can't remember a lot of instructions at the same time. I have a difficult time copying down off the board and I'd like some notes provided to me in class. Things like that are really simple and easy that students can refer to and then communicate to their teachers.
My teacher, he has these assignments and there's 4 of them during the year, and right now I need to finish my final draft of the first one. And I find I'm really intimidated by my teacher to go up to him and really be a self-advocate.
Okay. Have you tried talking to him at all yet, or?
Not really.
Not really, okay. So what is it that you think that you need to ask for, or what is the real problem that we want to advocate for here?
The amount of work is really overwhelming, and it's hard. I don't know what to move on, how to move on to the next chapter. And I find that I'm just kind of finishing this last minute, and procrastination is kind of kicking in. So it's really hard to do on my own.
So getting started is really the problem. Okay, so I think maybe one thing that you and I can do is that we can look at this maybe weekly template. And I think you have 2 weeks before this is needed to be handed in? Okay, so maybe we take 2 of them and we think about dividing up your time each day and break it down so it's not such a big, onerous task that you need to do, but we can think about what's one thing that we want to accomplish each day and work towards your end goal. Would that be a little bit helpful to you?
Yeah, that'd be quite helpful.
Okay. Once students gain a self-awareness of themselves as learners and they know what supports they can access at school, the last thing they can really do is learn how to communicate that to their teacher. So if we can provide them some modeling about what that dialogue might look like, some keywords, or ways that they can approach teachers and ask for that, that's really an important thing for us to do.
One way to help students learn how to communicate these things is to have them make lists of their strengths and challenges and practice talking about it, maybe even doing sort of a role play with the student and the teacher to get them ready for situations where they might have to talk about it.
So maybe we should think about setting up a time, maybe at lunch or before or after school, when either the two of you can sit down and you can sort of advocate for yourself and what you need with this portfolio.
Yeah.
Or if you want me to come with you, then I can come help you with that process as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good plan.
Okay.
And I would like you there so then I'm not, so overwhelmed and kind of nervous with him.
Right, because learning how to advocate is a hard thing. And I think if I'm there to help you, then you can see what that process is like and it doesn't need to be so intimidating.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's any other accommodations that we need to ask for?
Maybe if he could help me figure out what is the next step to move on in my assignment, because I'm not quite sure what to start off on for the next draft.
Okay, so we want some maybe ideas or suggestions from him about how to improve for the next draft.
For him to edit, maybe that'd be great.
Okay, so we can work that into our plan as well, and then when we sit down, we'll make sure that we advocate for those things for you.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That
good.
makes me feel better.
Self-advocacy is extremely important to children with learning disabilities and ADHD. When we look at studies of adults with learning difficulties who have been successful, we found that self-advocacy was very important to their success.
All students can benefit from having better self-awareness and learning how to take charge and be more independent. As teachers, we have a vital role to play in helping students learn to be effective self-advocates.
As a learning support teacher, it's really rewarding to see students who know how to advocate for themselves. For myself, I feel that that's one of the best things that we can do for students is really teach them how to be advocates. And we know that when they leave this building, and whether it's on to post-secondary or to the world of work, they're going to be confident, they know what they're good at and what's challenging for them, and they know how to ask for those things that they're going to need in order to be successful.
When I'm being a good self-advocate and then I feel like really good about assignment or something, it relieves the stress. I feel motivated after that. It's a good push that, I'm a good self-advocate, and then I hear it from other teachers or other people, and I feel even more boosted to keep on going, and it just kind of, turns into something really good.